Against a backdrop of tension, ideology, and deterrence, there once was a transnational scientific friendship between a Chinese scientist and an American scientist that had a profound effect on the development of nuclear physics in China. At that time, the Cold War enveloped the world in the shadows of war, as the United States and the Soviet Union competed for supremacy in science and technology. Nuclear physics research was the topic every country was keeping an eye on, as the US government poured vast resources into being the leader of this field. During the 1940s, China was in a state of disrepair, and its technological level lagged far behind that of Western countries. To change this situation, a large number of Chinese students went abroad to study. This is a story about scientific cooperation and patriotism. The protagonists are Professor John Trump and Chinese nuclear physicist Zhao Zhongyao. Zhao Zhongyao was born to a declining family in Juji, Zhejiang Province in 1902. His mother was over 46 years old when Zhao was born, and his parents pampered him. Although his ancestors were considered rich, his father's generation had declined, and the family relied on his father's medical practice to make ends meet. Zhao Zhongyao was frail and sickly from an early age. His family did not let him take physical education classes in elementary school, and his sports score was always 0. But Zhao's academic performance was extremely good. Zhao's father taught his children to study hard in order to contribute to their country. Zhao Zhongyao inherited his father's thinking, always believing that his country's national interest came first. Zhao was admitted to Nanjing Normal University in 1920, but did not choose the path of liberal arts, which would have given him a stable income in the future. Instead, he went into the Department of Mathematics, which was unpopular at the time because China's scientific research was still in an exploratory stage. Zhao Zhongyao just wanted to live a peaceful life, study science and technology, and defend his country. After graduating from university, Zhao served as an assistant teacher in the Department of Physics at National Southeast University, preparing experiments for Ya Qi-sun, whose attitude of doing scientific research subtly influenced him. In 1925, Ya Qi-sun was hired by the Department of Physics at Tsinghua University, and Zhao Zhongyao followed him there, becoming one of Tsinghua University's youngest tutors. In his first year, at a time when China's science and technology lagged behind the West, Zhao Zhongyao served as a teaching assistant, and by his second year became a teacher responsible for experimental classes. In his spare time, Zhao also completed all the compulsory courses of the physics department. In addition, he believed that to strengthen your country, you must also learn advanced foreign technology. At Tsinghua University, teachers had the opportunity to study abroad at public expense every 6 years, and Zhao learned several languages as he waited for an opportunity to go abroad. The 25-year-old Zhao Zhongyao had only 2 years of teaching experience, but he didn't want to wait any longer, so decided to study abroad at his own expense. In 1927, Zhao Zhongyao raised his own tuition and went to the California Institute of Technology to conduct experimental physics research under Nobel laureate Professor Robert Millikan. who had won the Nobel Prize in 1923. At first, Professor Millikan thought Zhao only came to the United States to gain a doctorate degree, so assigned a simple optical experiment that would secure him a doctorate degree within 2 years. But Zhao had really come to the United States to do research to help his country. According to Caltech's practice, students can only follow the topic the instructor gives them, but Zhao Zhongyao broke this rule when he asked Professor Millikan to change the subject. At that time, Caltech was alarmed, but Professor Millikan helped Zhao take a more difficult topic: the absorption coefficient of hard gamma rays when they pass through matter. Zhao Zhongyao stayed in the laboratory day and night, classes in the morning, instruments in the afternoon, and recording experimental data every half an hour at night, which often kept him from sleeping. It is because of this serious and painstaking experimenting that Zhao got the perfect experimental data to discover the special physical phenomenon of abnormal absorption, what a beam of high-energy protons with hard gamma rays exhibits when passing through heavy metal lead. At the age of 28, Zhao Zhongyao observed positrons for the first time, becoming the first scientist in human history to discover antimatter. In 1930, Zhao Zhongyao published a paper about subversive theory, which was confirmed by Professor Millikan, and this Nobel-level discovery immediately caused a sensation in the entire physics community. The Nobel Prize in 1936 was awarded to Carl Anderson, who discovered the positron trajectory. His laboratory was next to Zhao Zhongyao's and had observed electrons 2 years after Zhao. In fact, Carl Anderson's research results were based entirely on Zhao Zhongyao's research. Anderson later admitted that his inspiration for the Nobel Prize came from Zhao Zhongyao, saying that without him, there would be no Nobel Prize for me. Many people felt sorry for Zhao, who felt that prizes, big and small, really had no meaning to him. His true hope was for Chinese science and technology to become stronger in the future. More than a decade later, on the basis of this theory, the United States created the world's first atomic bomb. After graduating from the California Institute of Technology, Zhao transferred to the University of Cambridge in the United Kingdom, where he studied under Ernest Rutherford, the father of atomic physics and a pioneer of quantum mechanics. Rutherford had a high regard for Zhao, and when Zhao Zhongyao planned to return to China, Rutherford gave him a tube of 50 milligrams of radioactive radium. After returning to China, Zhao Zhongyao started China's first nuclear physics course and created the first nuclear physics laboratory at Tsinghua University. He also gave the radium given to him by Rutherford to Tsinghua students to do experiments and formed a special research team. In 1937, the War of Resistance against Japanese aggression broke out. Beijing fell, and Japan occupied Tsinghua University. The students went south for refuge, but Zhao knew the 50 milligram tube of radioactive radium was still in Tsinghua. This was not only radium, but the future of Chinese scientific research. If it fell into the hands of the Japanese army, the consequences would be disastrous. Zhao Zhongyao found his colleague Liang Sicheng. Together, they sneaked into Tsinghua's laboratory and found the tube of radium. Zhao knew if he came across the Japanese army with the radium, he would be exposed, so found a jar of pickles and put the radioactive radium inside of it. Zhao Zhongyao did not go south with Liang Sicheng's family, but fled off alone. In order not to attract people's attention, he smeared mud on his face and tore his clothes. Then, looking like a beggar, Zhao Zhongyao began a 1,000-mile journey with other refugees. Along the way, he lost almost all his luggage, protecting the pickle jar while surviving days and nights sleeping outside in the wind. When he finally arrived at Tsinghua University in Changsha, a young, handsome Zhao Zhongyao was in ragged clothes, looking no different than a beggar. At the school gate, a guard stopped Zhao and he was blocked out. Principal Mei Yiqi then passed. Zhao held up the pickle jar and said, "Principal Mei, I am Zhao Zhongyao." Mei Yiqi realized that the beggar in front of him was a professor from Tsinghua University. Radium radiation had eroded his body, which had blood marks on it because he held the pickle jar for such a long time. But the 50 milligrams of radium was still intact. Zhao Zhongyao had protected the future of Chinese physics. At that time, China was so poor, it didn't even have the most basic particle accelerator, which was a difficult problem for China's nuclear physics research. Zhao believed China must master nuclear technology quickly, otherwise it would fall too far behind. So looked around for help, hoping to find a way of obtaining accelerator technology. After the end of the Sino-Japanese War, the world saw the power of the atomic bomb. A year later, Zhao Zhongyao received an invitation from the United States to watch an atomic bomb test up close. In 1946, Zhao Zhongyao witnessed the United States test an atomic bomb on Bikini Island. When he saw the rising mushroom cloud, Zhao knew that China needed such strength, so decided to return to the United States to purchase related nuclear equipment so his homeland could also use this weapon. The biggest challenge Zhao Zhongyao faced was lack of scientific research equipment, such as the proton electrostatic accelerator, which was an important scientific research device for separating neutrons. If there was not enough neutrons for nuclear testing, China would not be able to complete its nuclear program. But at that time, for China to purchase a new accelerator was an almost impossible task. German immigrants Frederick Trump and Elizabeth Christie had 2 sons and 1 daughter. The eldest son was President Donald Trump's father, Fred Trump, and the second son was a famous physicist, John George Trump, who was born in New York on August 21, 1907. When John was 11, his father, Fred Trump, died of the Spanish flu. So John grew up with his brother, devoting himself to science, as Fred devoted himself to real estate development. John did not enjoy the extravagant life of the rich second generation and had no interest in business at all. He studied hard and was admitted to Brooklyn Polytechnic Institute, where he received a bachelor's degree in electronic engineering. In 1929, he got a master's degree in physics from Columbia University, and then a PhD in electrical engineering from Massachusetts Institute of Technology in 1933. After being admitted to MIT, Trump devoted himself to high-pressure physics and particle accelerator technology, becoming very successful in this field. John Trump's teacher, Robert Van de Graaff, invented the world's first high-voltage electrostatic generator, which Trump modified to be even more compact and practical. John Trump also developed a high-pressure accelerator to treat urban sewage. In 1937, the teachers and students invented a 1 MV X-ray generator, greatly improving the role of radium in the treatment of cancer. During this period of rapid industrial development in the United States, John Trump's academic background was enough for him to get a very good job. But Trump did not enter the workplace after graduation, like his family expected, instead going into the field of electrical engineering research. From 1936 to 1973, John Trump was a professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and a member of the American Academy of Engineering. During John's scientific career, he achieved many scientific research results in the fields of high-voltage energy applications and accelerators. He made great achievements in scientific exploration and helped to invent a machine with a voltage of 2 million volts for hospital treatment, especially for cancer patients, saving many lives. John Trump had achievements in cleaning up the environment, and his radar technology helped the U.S. military win World War II. John Trump contributed to China's nuclear industry by sharing information and supplying equipment and experiments, making significant contributions to the scientific progress of all mankind. John Trump was praised by his colleagues for his good temperament under great pressure and maintaining a friendly attitude toward others. John Trump's National Science Award ceremony was held in 1985, hosted by President Ronald Reagan. Unfortunately, John Trump had just passed away and was unable to attend the ceremony. John Trump has been regarded as a great and selfless person, which is fully reflected in all of his academic accomplishments. Research of atomic bombs requires an electrostatic accelerator, which China did not have at the time. Zhao Zhongyao received $50,000 to buy an accelerator, but an accelerator in the United States cost at least $400,000. Not only did he not have enough money, but even if the accelerator was obtained, because the United States prohibited the sale of such cutting-edge technology, it would be very difficult to transport this equipment from the United States back to China. Zhao Zhongyao thought if the accelerator can't be bought, he could buy the parts in the United States and assemble them himself after returning to China. Zhao was an expert in nuclear physics, but did not know how to make accelerators, so began researching engineering issues. He went back to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the Electrostatic Accelerator Laboratory, the Carnet Magnetic Research Institute, and other well-known university laboratories to buy parts. Zhao began conducting in-depth research on the construction of the accelerator, working more than 16 hours a day, devoting himself to research, and soon mastered the basic structure and use of it. He shuttled between labs, looking for every possible opportunity to acquire equipment and knowledge, while saving money from his living expenses to buy parts. He also worked at school laboratories for free, and when he saw abandoned experimental equipment, he would ask for it. At this time, John Trump had been a professor at MIT since 1936 in the Department of Electrical Engineering, managing the accelerator laboratory. Zhao Zhongyao first found Robert Van de Graaff, John Trump's teacher, but in that era of racial discrimination, Van de Graaff refused to help Zhao. Zhao Zhongyao met Professor Trump, who was an expert in the field of accelerators. Professor Trump admired Zhao's spirit of seeking knowledge, as well as his patriotism, and the two established a deep friendship. The two complemented each other. Zhao was good at theory, and Trump was good at invention and manufacturing. Trump introduced Zhao to the specific structure of the accelerator and highlighted its manufacturing process. He even shared lesser-known information he had learned over the years. Trump would also answer any questions raised by Zhao. At that time, Trump's research facility needed to be upgraded, and there was an old large electrostatic accelerator that needed to be dismantled and disposed of. Trump learned Zhao needed such an accelerator and sold this accelerator to him at a price close to scrap. In later years, Zhao Zhongyao recalled this experience. The director of the laboratory, Trump, was enthusiastic and kind, and he was very supportive of my work and thought of many ways for me. He asked me to use their information and introduced me to another expert to help me solve the problem. He also transferred an old atmospheric electrostatic accelerator that was going to be removed from the laboratory to me for testing. The accelerator might have been considered garbage in the United States at the time, but for China, it was a key to opening the door of nuclear physics research. In order to ship this accelerator back to China, Zhao and Trump racked their brains. It was the Cold War, and the United States had strict control over the export of high-end technology. They had no choice but to disassemble the accelerator into parts and then ship them to China in batches. The large old accelerator was packed into 30 boxes, along with other parts purchased from various places, mixing them with teaching equipment. While he was preparing to ship the accelerator back to China, Zhao encountered trouble at customs. The U.S. authorities detained the accelerator parts and questioned him. The U.S. military even detained Zhao's research materials. John Trump then stepped forward, using his connections and influence to help Zhao Zhongyao transport the accelerator back to China. Trump insisted Zhao was just throwing away garbage. If John Trump had not been a top talent in the American scientific research community, he would probably have been thrown into prison by the CIA. When the Korean War broke out in 1950, Sino-US relations deteriorated rapidly, and Zhao Zhongyao's return to China was greatly hindered. In order to remain incognito, Zhao chose a tortuous route back to China, traveling to many countries. Each step was taken cautiously for fear of being discovered about his true intentions. On August 29, 1950, more than 100 students studying in the United States, including Zhao and Chinese aerospace engineer Chen Shui-sen, boarded the President Wilson to return to China. But just as they were about to set sail, FBI agents came to search the ship. Chen Shui-sen's books and notes were detained, and Chen was also detained on Termina Island, where the Americans took turns guarding him. Zhao Zhongyao was released, but after the ship arrived in Yokohama, Japan, American agents rushed aboard the ship, capturing Zhao and imprisoning him in the Sugamo military prison on unwarranted charges. After Zhao Zhongyao boarded the ship, American agents realized he had stayed in the United States for more than 4 years and had worked in a top nuclear physics laboratory in the United States. The American agents did not find any strategic materials in Zhao's duffel bag, but the agents had another strategy. During Zhao Zhongyao's imprisonment in Japan, Taiwan tried to persuade Zhao to go to Taiwan. Faced with the temptation of high salaries from the United States and the invitation from the Taiwan authorities, Zhao Zhongyao remained determined to return to the mainland. During his 2 months in detention, Zhao was not only interrogated every day, but also learned from Japanese thieves in the cell how to speak Japanese. The detention of Zhao Zhongyao in Japan caused an uproar in the international arena. The American scientific community also strongly opposed, protesting the U.S. actions. Premier Zhou Enlai issued a statement, and Marie Curie's son-in-law, Frederic Joliot-Curie, the chairman of the World Commission for the Defense of Peace, appealed to peace lovers around the world to condemn the U.S. government's unreasonable behavior. Because of the absence of evidence, Zhao Zhongyao was released, and on November 28, 1950, set foot on mainland China. After returning to China, Zhao handed over the accelerator parts he bought to the Institute of Physics at the Chinese Academy of Sciences. He then used those parts to assemble China's first 700,000-volt proton electrostatic accelerator. In 1958, another 2.5 million-volt proton electrostatic accelerator was successfully manufactured, which remained in service until the year 2000. Both of these accelerators became an important tool for China's nuclear physics research and made important contributions to the development of China's nuclear weapons. Because of the international situation at the time, China did not make public the origin of its first proton accelerator, which made people mistakenly believe it was achieved through a great scientific breakthrough. On October 16, 1964, a mushroom cloud rose into the sky in Lop Nur, Xinjiang. China was able to achieve the feat of a first atomic bomb explosion in less than 3 years at a speed far exceeding that of the United States and the Soviet Union. Although Zhao Zhongyao was not directly involved, he did help to create this epic feat. For more than 30 years, Zhao stayed at the University of Science and Technology of China, devoting himself to education. In 1995, Zhao Zhongyao, at 93 years old, had won many bonuses, but donated all of them to a scientific research fund, supporting and encouraging young scientists. John Trump reflected the spirit of science without borders and contributed to the nuclear cause of China. If it hadn't been for the help of Professor Trump, China's nuclear weapons research might have had many more detours. Zhao Zhongyao repeatedly mentioned Trump's help to him, and also admitted that without his help, China's atomic bomb would have been delayed by more than 10 years. Trump helped Zhao Zhongyao not because he was siding with any country, but because he loved science and cared about the common destiny of mankind. He believed science had no national boundaries and that knowledge should be shared by everyone. His actions reflected the broad mind and responsibility of all scientists. This period of history teaches us that progress of science is inseparable from openness and cooperation, even if there are differences in national interests and ideologies. Science can still connect people together so everyone can pursue the truth and create a better future. Scientists like Zhao Zhongyao and John Trump truly demonstrate the spirit of science and the value of friendship.